I suppose that my legacy would be bringing groups of people together and spreading joy amongst them.
Yeah.
That would be what I would want my legacy to be.
Welcome to the Living in Santa Barbara podcast. I'm your host, Kathy Henry, and that was just a snippet from today's episode with Spencer the Gardener, a beloved figure in our community, known for his vibrant music and joyful performances. Spencer has been entertaining Santa Barbara for years, bringing people of all ages together with his infectious energy and unique sound. Spencer will share his journey from growing up in Santa Barbara to becoming a prominent musician, and will explore his early influences, the formation of his bands, and the paths he has taken during his musical career. Welcome, Spencer.
Hi, how are you?
Thanks for being on the podcast. I had no idea that you were Liz's brother.
I knew that. I knew that.
So I kind of met you through Liz.
I suppose so.
Right? I mean, you've been playing in town for years.
Since the beginning of time.
Uh-huh. And my son grew up listening to you. You would perform at some of the schools.
Oh, are you talking about the Organic Gangster?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I would say that you're one of the reasons why I'm here in Santa Barbara.
Well, then that's funny that you ended up with Liz, too.
The reason why I was attracted to living in Santa Barbara was because I used to come up here and visit my friend who lived up on the Riviera. And then we would go hang out on State Street. Remember the old State Street in the 80s?
I do
in the
remember
90s?
that.
Totally different.
It is, I mean, actually, the 80s and 90s are each equally different.
Yeah. It'll probably be more the 90s for me.
The 90s was probably when it was the most popular.
Yes.
When it was a little bit smaller, but places were, we used to play at a place called the Beach Shack or the Catch or all these different places that were just crowded because there weren't very many to choose from.
Yes.
Now there's just, you could choose a million different places for whatever you want.
Uh-huh. There was James Joyce, I think.
Yeah, that probably opened in the 90s.
So I love your band. It's so much fun. I love the trumpet and the saxophone and the whole big band vibe. So how did you start? Like, let's go to the very beginning. You grew up in Santa Barbara.
Oh, okay. Well, do you want the beginning of Spencer the Gardener or the beginning of...
Let's be the beginning of your life.
Okay. Well, it's interesting because, by the way, Liz is my sister, for those that are listening. But so we grew up on the Mesa at a beautiful little place called the Yankee Farm. And it's funny because both of us, the product of two people, we have very similar mannerisms, and she is a very good singer,
mm-hmm.
and she speaks Spanish, and I'm not a very good singer, but I do sing.
You sound good.
And I also speak Spanish, and so the point I'm getting at is, it's very strange that these two kids ended up the way they are from these two parents, that just the mixture of them, that's what they produce, because it's unlike either of them.
What were your parents like?
Well, it's not that they were that different, but my dad was a writer and he was a landscaper, and he actually died when I was 16. And my mom and dad married young, and it wasn't that they weren't musical or language oriented, but they just weren't. Mm-hmm. So it's just kind of like, that's what both of us ended up being. Like the two of them together created that entity.
What did your mom do?
My mom ended up managing a catamaran company, for one.
Okay.
She also managed Tienda Ho, and she did a lot of different things, like many people do in Santa Barbara.
Yeah.
But the one that I liked the most was when she managed Nacra Catamarans, which is why I ended up playing guitar, because I met a fisherman guy who used to come over, and he taught me how to play guitar.
At what age was that?
That was age 13.
So were you singing at the time, or you just started off as a guitarist?
It's funny. I've never really been either a singer or a guitarist. I'm kind of more of like a songwriter.
Yeah.
My sister was singing early on, and she was singing Ella Fitzgerald and singing. She's very, very talented.
Mm-hmm.
So I was kind of the opposite. I was surfing. I started surfing at 13, and I was playing guitar and just doing all those kinds of things. And I was more into like rock and roll or,
Yeah.
like, I mean, David Bowie, I loved.
Okay.
And it wasn't like, even though, and it's funny to this day, I can still sing all these Ella Fitzgerald songs because I heard them so much growing up. But at the time I was probably more into like, Thin Lizzy or just all those kind of rock things.
Were you really into music, or were you really into surfing?
I was really into music. I was into both. I mean,
Okay.
all of us were, but I was probably more into surfing at the time.
Yeah.
I was always really into sports. So I
Okay.
also played, through my whole entire life, I played basketball all the time. I played volleyball for a little while too, but basketball was kind of like my main thing.
So you like hanging out with the friends, and
Yeah.
that sounds like
every guy.
So you started playing guitar, and Lizzie was singing. Do you think your dad, being a writer, might have influenced?
Definitely, he was into the arts.
Yes.
But when we were really young, he listened to opera, which, was not something that we probably loved. But he was like old school arts.
So you were hanging out surfing, and then you're playing the guitar. At what point did you decide that you guys were going to start a band? How did the Tan form?
Well, I started a band when I was 17 with all the guys from the Mesa. We just got together and started playing a little bit. That was called All Night Longo. Brad Knack, friend of mine, long time, we grew up together, came back from Europe while we were doing that band. And he said, hey, there's this whole new wave thing going on over there. We should start a band. And I said, okay. And he didn't know how to play anything. So we went to Mexico and I taught him how to play guitar. And we were gone for 4 months. It was a great adventurous trip. But it had a point to it.
This is in high school?
This is right out of high school.
Okay.
Age 19. And so I taught him how to play guitar well enough to where we could start a new wave band. And then we got back here and we started a band right away called The Tan.
And you were the songwriter?
Well, all of us were.
Okay.
Ended up, I mean, it was the whole new wave thing. The point of new wave at one time was that anyone can do it, right?
Okay.
Even though that was the underlying current, because some of the people that like were doing it in that fashion were really good, like Elvis Costello and Blondie and the Talking Heads. And so they were all into music. But it made it feel like everybody had a chance rather than stadium rock, which had come before it. So that's why you heard a lot of pop bands from LA and Santa Barbara, and just because it was fun. And also it was really fun to be in a band.
Did you just come back and like playing at friends' parties, and then, did you have a big friend group that helped?
Well, yes, every band that starts has a big friends group, especially if they're like 19.
Yeah. Because
you always have a lot of friends at 19.
Yeah.
Even if they're not your friends, it's like they're just big groups of people that travel around. You tell one person and they tell one person and they've told 10 and they've told 20 and they've told 30. As opposed to nowadays where you tell one person and they might tell one person.
Yeah.
But chances are high that they don't have, I mean, I'm the same way. It's like, it's a funny thing that happens to people as they get older. They tend to isolate a little bit. And if you're ever wondering why your phone's not ringing, it's because you're not calling anyone.
Yes, exactly. So then you started playing friends, you started playing parties, and then how did you transition to become this band that the record companies found?
Well, we started at friends' parties, but we also started at a club called George's, which was downtown Santa Barbara, which was the New Wave Club. So it was kind of an alternative thing. And music at that time was flourishing, like it's not now. I mean, it'll never go away. It's always something popular, but the actual business of music, I mean, I think its heyday was in the 70s, but it also, like in the early 80s, there was just a lot of movement in the record industry, and they were always trying to find something new, and a lot of people were involved. So people were scouting around different places, and we ended up first with Robbie Krieger from the Doors and then Robbie Robertson from the band, and they kind of took us under their wing. And
did they hear you and then they decided to invite you?
When we dealt with Robbie Robertson, it's because he was looking for a project. His lawyer ended up being our lawyer too. And they just, he said, this is the band that you want to take because they know what they're doing. Same thing happened when we played in Peru. It was kind of like they were looking for an American band and could check all the boxes, and we did. And so they flew us down there, and we played there for a couple of months, which was super fun as well.
And where was Liz at this time? Was she off doing her own thing, or was she involved with your band?
She was never really involved with that. She kind of guest sang sometimes. Same with now. I mean, she just started being more involved in the last couple of years.
Okay.
For a number of different reasons. One is because she's available. And two is because, she went to Berklee School of Music.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. And she was doing stuff. She was singing commercials in New York.
Oh, wow.
So she had a musical career. And when she came back here, she started a band, and then she realized it's really hard being in a band or keeping a band together.
Does it seem like there's a lot more bands now than there were back during the heyday?
It depends on who you talk to. I think so. I mean, to me, the heyday is never... Well, there will be people from the 80s who say that's the heyday. The 90s, they say that's the heyday. Well, I've played through all of them, so they all seem like the heyday to me.
But now there seems like there's a lot of live music out there.
There's a ton of live music. But in the 80s, there was a lot of live music. It was just a smaller version of a lot, if that makes any sense. There is so much out there now that, in a way, you could also say there's never been a better time to be on your own doing music than now. And there's never been a worse time to be on your own doing music as now.
Why is that?
Because there's so many people doing it.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's really hard. We're lucky. We've been doing it for a while. We have a gigantic fan base. And so I think it'd be really hard to be young starting out now. Let's say you're in a town like Santa Barbara and you meet some guys and you get together and you start a band and you're trying to get playing clubs and make it to the point where you can make some money. And at the same time, you're paying $2,000 for a room. It's kind of like it's almost impossible thinking about how that would happen.
Well, I think you have to have your own sound, and that's why you're so popular, is that you guys have your own sound. You have your own personality, which is a little quirky.
That's true. I mean, that's definitely helped us along for a lot of reasons. I mean, all the bands I like, the B-52s, the Pogues, they all have sort of a inclusive feel to them, and we do too. And it's, it can be whatever you want. It can be a dance party, which makes it an easier show to see more than once.
Yeah.
Or there's, the lyrics are a lot of times, it kind of plays on different emotions. Like the song can be happy and the lyrics can be sad. So there's a lot you can glean out of all of it. But yeah, definitely the fact that we are a danceable, fun, crowded sort of thing keeps us going.
And is that because of the way you grew up with your friends and you're always having fun and partying, that it influenced your style of music? You just love to have fun with all your friends? Is that the goal of playing in your band?
Well, I would say that changed at a certain point. When I was in London, I started hearing certain things that I liked, and a horn section was one. And also, I've always loved Latin music. So I grew up singing songs in Spanish also. So that was just kind of a natural progression, all the things that I like Britpop, indie, sort of some of the indie rock, some of the rap stuff, some of the Spanish stuff, and it just kind of melded it all together.
Yeah. Well, Spanish music tends to be more lively. I've noticed that a lot of my Latina friends, they always love to dance.
Right. Well, that's definitely a cultural thing.
Yes.
And I actually am a salsa dancer and a tango dancer. So I have that too.
How did you learn Spanish? Was that in high school or just, are you completely fluent?
Not as much as my sister is. I'm lazily fluent.
Okay. I tend to practice a little bit. We could do this in Spanish too if you want.
It's up to you. But I would say that I learned because one of the reasons was because of surfing. When you grow up in California, you spend time in Mexico. It's just kind of a rite of passage.
Got it. Yeah.
So we've all spent a lot of time in Mexico. And it's still, consequently, I lived there for a while too later on.
Mm-hmm.
But I did one summer or one fall, I spent fall and winter playing up and down the Nayarit coast with a Mexican friend of mine.
Mm-hmm.
So I've done that there too.
Did the whole band go to Mexico?
No.
Okay.
But the whole band has played in Mexico.
Yeah.
We were flown down to play a variety of different things.
Does everybody surf?
No.
Okay.
Actually, only me.
Now we're talking about the tan.
Oh, the tan?
Yeah, the tan.
A couple of us surf in the tan. Oh, I thought we had switched to Spencer.
We're going to get there. We're going to get to Spencer Gardner in just a minute.
I already switched.
Yeah.
So back to the tan for a minute. The tan was popular at first because we were young and we had friends.
Mm-hmm.
And that always translates to people bring people. That's just, there's no two ways about it.
Mm-hmm.
So that when you bring a large crowd to begin with, you're guaranteed to, if you're any good,
mm-hmm.
you'll probably keep having a crowd like that and add to it.
How long were you guys a band for?
Well, we started in 79. We started in 79 and we moved to England in 85.
Oh, that's a while.
Yeah. And then we broke up and then everybody kind of went their own ways, but everybody's still friends and we still do things together. And
why'd you guys break up?
Because we had all run our course. I mean, we had a record deal.
Was it getting tedious?
Well, we had a record deal, which is why we moved to London.
Uh-huh.
It was coming out in Los Angeles, and it fell apart as things did a lot in the 80s with, I mean, there's a million bands with record deals that you've never heard of because something just went wrong.
Uh-huh.
And so that's what happened with us. And so we moved to London and did a record over there. But we all were kind of, like, I had started the musical, in my mind, I started forming Spencer the Gardener,
mm-hmm.
and it sounded completely different than the tan. And it does sound completely different than the tan. So we were all like that. Each one of us, even though we'd all been writing songs together, we were all kind of going off in our own direction.
Got it. Why do you move to London as a band to, how does that help?
Well, it helped us because we just liked doing things like that. I mean, I don't think everybody would do that, nor could they, because it was, I mean, I washed a lot of dishes and I took whatever job I could get. It was hard.
But what is it about London that attracts bands?
Because London is was the epicenter of music for a long time.
Uh-huh.
And it was kind of like move to LA or move to London.
Mm-hmm.
But now you could move anywhere. You could move to
Nashville, maybe.
Well, Nashville's kind of a hub. I mean, I was going to say you could move to Bakersfield, and because you can do anything from anywhere now.
Interesting. So then you had a pivotal moment while you were with the Tan, and there was an accident.
No, that was Spencer the Gardener.
Oh, that was during Spencer the Gardener.
Yeah, you have to understand, we've been around now for like 30 years. So
when did you start Spencer the Gardener? How did that transition happen?
So I moved back here from London in 86.
Okay.
And for the next couple of years, I got a job landscaping.
Uh-huh.
And
did you stop doing music?
I did. I was doing this other project called the Wedding Band, which we used to do one night a week, which was a very popular college thing, and it was super fun. Mm-hmm. We sort of invented mashups at that time.
What's a mashup?
It's when you take a bunch of different songs and put them together.
Yeah, yeah.
But anyways, we were experimenting with stuff like that, and it was very fun. And so we were super quirky as well. Mm-hmm. But so I was doing that, and I was working, and I was actually like kind of not unhappy being out of music. But then I got hurt, and I just was watching TV for about a week, and then I went, I got to do something. And I pulled out my 4-track, and I wrote the first Spencer the Gardener album. Mm-hmm. And I wrote it extremely fast just because I hadn't really done anything for a while, and I think it was just all in me. Yeah, so that was 89, and then I just got a bunch of different people together, and we recorded an album, and they said, you know what, we should play live. I was like, okay. I wasn't even thinking about it, but we played live, and it translated really fast. We got very popular. We were going up to San Francisco, and we were selling things out there, and it was like, wow, this is Okay, I wasn't expecting this, but here I am
Yeah,
back in
that's
music
so
again.
fun.
And then, I mean, through the length of time that we've been doing it, there's been ups and downs,
Uh-huh.
right? Like we'll go through phases where, I don't know, maybe we haven't put anything out for a while, or it's like music changes. And so, like right now, I would say that we're riding a good wave. We have a new record just came out, a
Yeah.
movie just came out, and we've done a number of sold out shows. And so we've stood the test of time for one,
Mm-hmm.
and that tends to make people come towards you a little bit. The only thing that's hard for me to figure out is how do I get the 25-year-olds?
Oh, yeah.
Because it is cultural, and it makes perfect sense as to, when you were a kid and you liked a band, if they were too old, you didn't like them.
Yeah, I don't know if you should ask me. I don't know anything about what's happening in pop culture.
Well, I think you do,
Uh,
but I think there's so much happening in pop culture that
yeah.
you just have to fit your little niche in somewhere and write it as hard as you can.
Yeah.
Like all the reality shows have changed everything too, in my opinion. And a show like American Idol, which has taken all the creativity out of the arts,
Yes.
and just made you be a solid and talented performer, which I don't know if there's nothing wrong with that, but it tends to eliminate people like me, because I am more along the lines of I like things like the B-52s would never win the, what did I just say that show? What's that show called?
American Idol.
American Idol. I feel like David Bowie would have won American Idol, and they would have steered him in a different direction, as opposed to being as creative as he was.
Yeah.
Because there's not as much room for that kind of creativity now.
Oh, I had a guest on my podcast, Jackson Gillies, and he was on American Idol, and he shared a story about what happened on American Idol, which is he wanted to sing a song, and they discouraged him from singing that song, made him sing a different song, and that didn't go so well because it wasn't his song.
Right.
So
he's a talented guy. But that's kind of, that's what I mean. Everything's scripted.
Yeah. Have you written songs for other people?
I've written songs mostly with me in mind, or my band in mind. Some of them would translate well, but I've never gone out looking. I've never delved into that side of the industry.
I mean, even for TV and film, it might be kind of interesting to have some of your songs like in a cartoon or anything.
I would love that.
Would be, yeah.
I would absolutely love that.
Have you ever considered that?
I've considered it a lot, but I'm lazy.
Well, maybe somebody...
the other side of that is sometimes, it's all like nowadays, if you could get a song on a Taco Bell commercial, that would be fantastic.
Yeah.
So it used to be that you made a lot of money off of songs in commercial, or you still do in commercials, but off of songs in a cartoon, say, or on a TV show. Well, you don't anymore. So it's kind of you have to just sort of put everything together, and that's how it's almost like that, like starting the kids records that I do, Organic Gangster. That was like a lucky break for me. County Bowl gave me a sponsorship to go play at schools, which I was doing anyway. But so it's kind of like, what I mean by that is that you take all the different things you have together, and that makes your career. So, I mean, yes, I would love to have something go on a cartoon or anything, even though it doesn't pay as much as it used to. But I'm just not tapped into that.
The filmmaking crowd.
And there is you do get tapped into that. I mean, like they use people that, it's funny. It's in life in general, everyone will say it in a bad way, but they go, well, it's all who you know. Well, it is all who you know.
Yeah.
I mean, every single aspect of why you go to a restaurant might be because you know the people that work there, or you go to a bar because you know the bartender. And that's just the way everything works. So I've never tapped into that, like musical directors type of vibe. And
but maybe you will now.
Maybe I will. Who knows?
Just a thought. So if somebody were to come to you with an idea for a TV show,
Yes, I
say,
could
here,
do that.
can you write, I don't know what they call them,
A theme song.
a theme song or something for it?
Most likely I could.
I mean, you definitely have a unique sound.
True. And that's probably one reason why I haven't pursued it as hard, because like where we are is, I'm lucky too, though, because, like I have this house that kind of changes things a lot. Santa Barbara's an easy town if you can find your way around.
Yes.
And if you're paying, like $5,000 a month for it, it makes it a little harder.
Yes.
So I'm in the, I can afford to relax a little bit and look at another angle of things, as opposed to, the other side of that is that that industry is extremely hard.
Yes.
And I'm not in LA, and I'm not, and those are, I don't know them. So, most people, like I just said before, they're going with who they know. And that's the way it works.
So I did send you a text message. I had a question in there. Would you trade the more success in your musical career over the lifestyle that you have here in Santa Barbara?
Well, that's a good question, because I think that if you were successful, this is the lifestyle you'd get to have.
Yeah.
So I'm lucky in that way.
Yes.
But there was a time when we were touring a lot in Spencer the Gardener, and when we were all younger, where definitely we would have traded that for a while, just to go on like a bigger tour, to go on, to take yourself up a little higher, which, would translate to where I'd still be in this exact same situation now.
Yeah.
Which is,
you would just come back to Santa Barbara afterwards.
Being from here is really weird, because this is where you come home to.
Yes.
And it is its own reward. I mean, it's a funny place. It's, like you can go to the bank, the post office, out to lunch, a concert, and still wondering what you're going to do that night. And you can do it all on your bike. So that is rare for, most a city. It takes you, like, you can pick two of those things to do that day.
Yeah, I say everything's 15 minutes away.
Yeah. And, and it used to be when I was a kid, Goleta is still 15 minutes away.
Yeah. And that's a whole different world.
But in the 15-minute, when I was younger, it was like Goleta was like, oh, wow, that's way out there. Which is also why I was kind of like thinking, well, let's make the 805, like the world. So when we go to Goleta, it's like going to a different town. So we need to, get everybody in Goleta because even in Goleta, and especially UCSB, nobody knows who we are. It's like we may be really popular, and it may seem to everybody that you couldn't be anymore, but I know how much more we could be. So it's kind of a never-ending game. The other funny thing about the game is, so a drummer who's played with us forever, his name is Cougar Estrada, but he's also in Los Lobos.
Does he live here in Santa Barbara?
He lives in Claremont.
Okay.
And he's after COVID, he's been in and out playing with us, but our drummer now is Robert Rickelli, who lives in Ojai. But anyways, a lot of bands that are out on those festival type circuits, they're all trying to get back to where they once were. And so it's a never ending escalation when you're in an artistic kind of thing, because you always see like, oh, could we get there? That doesn't mean that I'm not happy where I'm at, but I think everybody, it's a natural thing where you always kind of go, oh, we could go a little higher if we did that. Or
yeah. Well, you were. I mean, I guess there's the KCRW story. You got played on KCRW, and also you were on Good Morning America.
Yeah.
And you could tell us the KCRW story, but...
Well, we've been on a few different things. I mean, we were on KTLA, Channel 5 morning show. We've been... in a way, when we were on Good Morning America, it was like 96. And it's too bad that the internet wasn't a little bit more popular then, because now that is a really great thing to be on TV because you got instantly, it's like everybody has Instagram, everybody has email, Facebook, YouTube, etc. So they can just find you right away. So the trick is to finding a way to get people to want to find you.
Yeah.
And that's the hard part with how many things are going on today and how many, like every town has a good band or 10, every town. And, they also have 10 photographers who are very good and 20 waiting behind them. And, it's just the world is filled. So you just have to find a way in to let people see what you're doing. And we try to do it without having to do too much work.
Oh, God. Well, you want it to happen organically.
I would like that.
Yeah. So what would you like in your career right now? I mean, do you have any goals?
Well, I'll tell you,
Spencer the Gardener?
To be honest with you, things are going really well right now. I mean, we're doing a big concert in Ventura at the end of the summer. It's the 100-year of Fiesta. We play every Saturday night in the plaza. We have a couple of festivals coming up in September and October. So the only thing I could say that I'd like to do is I'd like to go to Europe and do all those things. But, and this is a big but, it's like, I'd like to do that. One other guy would like to do that. And then the rest of them would not like to do that. They may say they'd like to do it, but people get pretty used to what they're doing in life as they get older. So I feel like, I mean, you saw us play with Dave Wakeling the other night, right? How many people do you think were in the English Beat from that band? None.
Yeah. I was wondering if you had met him before.
Yeah. I've played with him like 4 times throughout we played with him in Orange County in the 90s, and we played Santa Barbara once before and San Francisco once before. So yeah. But I mean, like, that's the English Beat, which is Dave Wakeling plus a whole bunch of new guys. Now, he's had a easier time filling any of those roles because he's been famous forever.
And plus he's in LA.
He lives in LA, but he's got enough money to hire somebody and like have them join for a little while and go off with him to Europe or whatever. So it's a little harder in the situation we're in. But anyways, the point of that is that, the English Beat's not playing really, but they are because they're Dave Wakeling songs. So I could do that too, but I'd have to get a whole new crop of people who would go. And I sometimes don't know if I'm as driven as that.
I mean, isn't touring hard?
Touring is hard, but also putting together a band to play the songs that you're playing now, and then going out and doing it and everything. It costs, to put that band together before you even go out and play costs a little bit of money. So yeah,
do you have a manager?
No, not right now.
Okay.
I've had different managers in the past, and sometimes I've thought to myself, this is not worth it. Partially, I think, but that's because sometimes I feel like I'm not driven enough. And sometimes it's because their job is to put you in situations that are going to enhance your career. And what they see sometimes isn't what I see.
What would you like? I mean, you said you want to tour.
I would love to go to Europe and do that. I would love to play libero-sized shows throughout the United States. That would be fun for me. But
I know playing music is fun, but is it the healing aspect? Well, because there's definitely a great energy. And what really motivates you?
Well, I love writing songs and I love playing live. Playing live to me is a little bit like playing basketball or going salsa dancing. It's like it's more than just, like I used to play basketball every day because the gym was open and there was people there and they'd go play. So it's the same sort of thing with music. It's like I play these shows because they're fun. There's a lot of energy, give and take, both sides, from the crowd to us and from us to the crowd. And, it is it's kind of like, I feel like we're like the traveling circus,
Mm-hmm.
and it's come to town and everyone gets to enjoy the circus.
Have you noticed, is there a different energy between the cities, the kind of people and like how you feel when you're playing with them? Like
Well,
Santa Barbara versus like if you were to go to San Francisco, for example.
well, the funny thing was in the 90s when we would go to LA or San Francisco, there was such a difference
Uh-huh.
between an LA crowd and a San Francisco crowd. An LA crowd was looking to see what might be famous, and a San Francisco crowd was just looking to have a good time.
And the Santa Barbara crowd is.
Santa Barbara crowd now is probably a little bit of both.
Mm-hmm.
But I think a lot of people, without realizing it, know that like their little sphere of the world is really what's important to them.
Mm-hmm.
And that happens a little bit with age too. But I think LA has changed from where it was before. And I think they've gotten to be more like, let's have a good time and not worry about
Mm-hmm.
fame and fortune, although it still is much more prevalent there than anywhere else I've ever been.
Yeah. Well, definitely here, I just think everybody's just here to have a good time. I see people dancing in the streets all the time. Father Larry, I've seen him dancing.
Well,
Has he been to?
that's the way it should be. I
Yeah,
mean, that's
old, young,
Latin culture
homeless
too,
even,
and it makes life easier when you're dancing through it.
Yeah. And you definitely capture the soul of the town. And I guess you've been called one of the heroes of Santa Barbara.
Well, yeah, I mean,
How do you feel about that?
I don't know. I definitely don't feel like I'm a hero.
Well, do you feel like you
I
heal
feel
people
like,
with your music?
I tell you the truth. I feel that we have had such an amazing staying power
Mm-hmm.
that I've never actually seen that before. And I've been around for long enough to have seen a lot of people come and go. And it's kind of amazing to me that we have just been able to last as long as we've lasted.
Mm-hmm.
So in that respect, yeah. But and again, that's partially the give and take, because you're pretty much guaranteed to having a good time if you come and see us.
Yeah.
In the same way that you're talking about seeing people dancing in parades, and that's kind of what we're like the circus.
Mm-hmm. Well, you're definitely an example of resilience.
Yeah, I would say that too.
Yeah.
Because there's been some bad times too.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you want to talk about them?
Well, I can't quite remember them all. Besides, like there's some obvious things like open heart surgery, really bad car crashes,
Mm-hmm.
being out on the road touring. There was a time where we were just like partying like mad, and it was kind of like we were on tour all the time, and it was the same. It's kind of a story that repeats itself over and over again with a band. It's like because they go play a show for an hour and then they don't have anything to do for the rest of the day, and they're out for 2 weeks or whatever, and so you end up just partying a lot, and that got in the way of a lot of things
Mm-hmm.
for a while. Although it was fun too.
Yeah.
But it got in the way.
Would you do things differently?
If I had to do it again, I would do things differently, but I'm not quite sure how.
Less partying?
Well, I think I would play professional basketball.
Okay. Were you that good?
No.
Okay.
But I still wanted to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, I would have to grow a few inches too.
Uh-huh.
But, again, that's like one of those things that, I read all the time as well. So
Mm-hmm.
people are always like, why don't you write a book? And it's part of me thinks like, God, will that ruin my reading?
Mm-hmm.
Because I enjoy reading so much. Playing basketball all the time, same thing. It was like, if I had taken it to another level,
Mm-hmm.
not that I could have,
Mm-hmm.
but, to do it all over again. And if I just practiced all the time when I was really young, I could have.
Mm-hmm.
But would that have been worth forsaking all the other stuff? Probably not.
Yeah.
Because I like everything I've done.
Yeah. Well, you've definitely done a lot of things. You've had a full life.
I have had a full life.
Celebrating life.
Celebrating life.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only thing I'm not very good at is relationships.
Oh, yeah? Why is that?
I'm not sure. I had a girlfriend one time who, I don't know if this is, well, anyways, she's like, "What are you doing tonight?" And I said, I have tango. It's like, "What about tomorrow?" I said, "I have kung fu." And she's like, "You know what? You just don't need me."
Uh-huh.
And I was laughing, kind of. I did laugh. And then but as I was thinking about it afterwards, I was like, wow, I've really set up myself to not need anybody because I just am able to sort of flourish with all these different things on my own.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I would say that's for better or for worse. It's kind of like, it's a funny situation.
Yeah. Do you get lonely?
Of course I do. And I'm more so now than I used to.
Yeah.
Because also as you
Well,
get
it's
older.
never too late.
Yes, that's true. And also you isolate more as you get older. And that's just everybody. That's just, it's funny because people will say this like they feel like they're the only ones. And it's like, no, it's like I said before, if your phone is not ringing, it's because you're not calling anybody. Yeah. And that happens a lot with just people as they age.
Well, you have to make an effort for sure.
You definitely have to make an effort.
Yeah. Definitely think that you're a big part of Santa Barbara's history and community.
Well, you're probably right. And I will be remembered in Santa Barbara as because certain things will come up, like Fiesta every year will come up, and there'll be people who go, "Oh, I wonder."
What is your legacy? Have you ever thought about what you want your legacy to be? Like, what is your message to people?
I'm not sure I've actually thought of that. I suppose that my legacy would be bringing groups of people together and spreading joy amongst them.
Yeah.
That would be, what I would want my legacy to be.
Well, I think it is.
Well, that's good.
Well,
you just took your glasses off. Are we done?
No, it was pushing on my head. But well, you have an album coming up. Oh, you have an album. Yes. Yeah, it just came out. You want to tell us about the album and then your next?
The album is called Shine On, and I can call it an album now because it also came out on vinyl.
Okay.
Which all of the other Spencer the Gardener records /CDs /downloads, they're all on Spotify, they're all on Apple, et cetera, but this is the first album that I've had since the 80s, so it's really cool to have something on vinyl.
Yeah. What are the songs? What inspired them?
Well, some of them are, I started doing a lot of cumbias, which is Mexican.
Okay. Are they in Spanish?
No, they're in English.
Okay.
That's what cumbia is a really popular form of music worldwide.
Well, could you describe what cumbia is?
It's a very danceable beat, and it's kind of originated in Colombia and in Mexico, but it's now sort of taken over everywhere. And it is something that it sounds really poppy when you put English lyrics to it, because that's, if you hear some of the songs, you'll go, oh, that's a cumbia. Okay. But it's because they're in Spanish, you would think of them differently. I think actually even a Spanish speaker would think of it differently in English, unless they spoke both languages. Anyways, that's not the only. I had a whole collection of songs that weren't on anything, because I have got a bunch of CDs out, but the newer songs I just didn't really know what to do with, because I was thinking, God, nobody really buys albums anymore. Nobody buys CDs. It's like, I'll just do one song here and download one song there. So we redid a lot of those songs that I have put out in the last few years and put them on one record so they have their own home. And it's called Shine On.
Okay.
It was produced by Emile Millar, and it is a little bit more lush sounding, which I like a lot. And it's really fun to have an album. Yeah. It's just so different. I forgot. It's like you can't sign Spotify. So it's kind of like people are, saying, will you autograph? And it's like, oh God, I forgot about this.
Yeah. Okay. So I might end the podcast with one of your songs. Which one would you choose?
I think I might choose, well, there's two. One is called Shine On, which is a slower song. Actually, both of them are slower, but Shine On is kind of just about keeping on. And obviously, I mean, the word shine on is, you could say, see you later, man, shine on. That's that's the essence of that song. And I think it's really pretty, and I just really like it.
Mm-hmm.
And the album's called Shine On.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And then what about the danceable one?
Well, there's a song called Carolina, which is it's a cumbia, and we did a great video for it up in the sands of Guadalupe.
Yeah.
Have you ever been up there?
Yeah.
So we did one. It's about trying to get your way back to a girl, or back to your own life, back to you've had a hard life and made some wrong choices, and it's about trying to get back to being in a right form of living and a girl. Mm-hmm. But that's the other one, Carolina.
Got it. Is it on YouTube?
Yeah.
Okay, great. And you guys, are you guys going to be performing at Solstice?
Solstice, we play every year at this party it's a morning party that goes all through the afternoon.
Where's this party? Is it an open party, or is it a private party?
It's a private party, but you can go if you want. You can stop by, because everybody stops by.
That's so
Some
funny.
people
Is it near the parade?
Yeah, it's right down the street.
Okay. Maybe.
But so we've been doing that for a while. So we haven't really been playing any of the solstice-oriented things. It's funny because we always play Fiesta.
Yeah.
And people are always like, where are you playing on Solstice? Because they expect that we're doing that too. But we haven't really done that very much. Okay. We've played twice in the park. Yeah. And we'll do it again, I'm sure. But we're already planning on doing this party. So
yeah. Any other performances that's open to the public?
Yeah, we have a ton of things coming up.
Okay.
When does this podcast come out?
I'm not sure.
Give me a ballpark figure.
In the next month. Okay. Within the next month.
So in August, the first week of August is Fiesta.
Okay.
Thursday night of Fiesta, we're playing. Well, let's start. Wednesday night of Fiesta. We've been doing this forever. We played it's the official, unofficial opening night of Fiesta. Okay. We've done it a few different places. I think this year it's going to be at M Special. Okay. Downtown. And then Thursday night we're playing at the beach side. Used to be at McKinley Park, but they moved it down to the beach. Mm-hmm. So that's a great little festival with a beautiful stage and a carnival and all that stuff.
Got it. Yeah.
So that's Thursday night. And then Saturday night of Fiesta, we're playing at the De La Guerre Plaza like we usually do, where we play the last set of Fiesta.
But they can also go to your website to find out.
Yeah. Well, Instagram is probably better, Instagram or Facebook, because I just keep them updated. Mm-hmm. So you go to Spencer the Gardener on Instagram? Is that what it's called? Okay. And then Spencer the Gardener on Facebook as well. Yeah. And the website is spencerthegardener.com. And the email is spencerthegardener@gmail.com, which a lot of people are on our email list because I send out monthly updates. So if anybody wants to be on that, spencerthegardener@gmail.com.
And if there's any filmmakers out there that want to have...
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Actually, I mean, the one thing, I don't say no to anything. Uh-huh. I don't say yes to everything either. But meaning, like, anybody has an idea, if they want, they can get in touch with me and we might do it. Yeah. It's like, I
think that's a great idea.
That's how easy it is being like in charge of your own thing.
Yeah.
So you can say yes and you can say no.
Right. All right. Well, thanks for talking to me.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
And if you want to come to that party, you can.
Okay. Thank you for listening to the Living in Santa Barbara podcast. To learn more about Spencer the Gardener, find his music, or the next event they are going to be performing at, go to spencerthegardener.com. And if you enjoyed the show, please follow, like, rate, and share with your friends and family so you can continue to learn about all of the amazing people that make Santa Barbara a unique and wonderful place to visit and live. Thank you so much.
Hello, moon, it's me again. I'm all alone like so many nights before. Close your eyes, spin around, and another year flies by. I can recall the time with your hand in mine, The constellations own the sky. And I traveled along, hoping that I could belong to something more powerful than I. Moon. Shine on, shine all along. Shine on, shine on.